I grew up in a third world country where you made your toys. I made boats out of coconut. So you would dig things out like that. And so that's an example of, gee, I would like to have a toy.
Hello! Today I'm here with Ted Watler from Parchment R&D. He's an entrepreneur, inventor, technologist, and Ted is a cross-domain expert on technology solution delivery from sensors to cloud, hardware, firmware, and software, as well as security development. Hello, Ted. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie, for having me here. I'm doing great. I'm excited for the opportunity to talk with you and to share a bit about my background and experience. Hopefully, we make some contributions that help some of your audience. Thank you.
I'm super excited to have you here because I know for a fact when we first talked, I was like harassing you because like what you do is so intriguing and it's so like unknown. I mean, you hear about inventors all the time, but you don't necessarily know how the process works, how you go from creating an idea to implementing that idea, how you get a patent, what's involved with that whole rigmarole. So, I mean, it's just fascinating to be able to delve into that. And at the end of our conversation where we get to know you and what you do, we're going to do a little Q&A based on some questions from my Facebook page. So I hope that you are up for the challenge.
I am ready. I hope I can deliver some value. Let's get this show on the road.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. So tell us, how did you get started with inventing? Like, were you always an inventor? Did you like disassemble your Legos and like your toys as a kid?
My creativity goes back to my days of youth, right? I grew up in a third world country in a very small seaport town where our access to information came to our church. We never had access to real toys. So you made your toys. I made boats out of coconut. If you take a dry coconut and you cut it, right, to take out the nut, you get like a shape of a boat that you can make as a hull. So you would dig things out like that and you put in little sails and so on. And you put like a little piece of a sharp, like a razor blade or something that acts as a rudder and it keeps it stable in the water. So that's an example of, gee, I would like to have a toy to do certain things. We would see things, it was an Episcopal church, you would see things like Highlight magazine. And through highlights, you get ideas of, wow, that would be neat. How can I get this? Back in those days, since you're in a port, people would have catalogs for things that would come off ships. And you get ideas and you would go and say, wow, it's saying, I wish I could have, should have. You'll go, okay, how can I make that? Right? Or how can you do that? And as I grew up, I was very good at mathematics and chemistry. I thought for a moment that I was going to be a chemical engineer until I got zapped by current and decided, okay, how does this work? And, so I grew up repairing and looking at things like refrigerators. How does fixing the house refrigerator? Running electrical wires for my grandmother's house and my parents' house, right? So you do things throughout your life that represent your curiosity, and it's all driven by curiosity. How does that work? Or how do I get something done? It's your creative nature. It's your desire to get something done. And some of us go the extra mile. Some of us don't. I didn't care about patents when I first started doing my work until my first boss in the United States, my first professional job, actually came to work for me in California and overheard many of my clients' conversations. And he would go, who owns that intellectual property? And I'm going, what are you talking about?
Intellectual property?
And that's when that started to sink in. It all started with an innate curiosity as a kid and not having the resources or access to things and try to fill the void with my own creativity.
Yeah, that's so great. You hear the story sometimes, but it's really nice to see the progression and to know that you decided to go into chemical engineering and decided that, oh, maybe this isn't necessarily the track that I want. I think it's kind of like you wanted more, like you wanted not to have that specifically narrow niche, right?
Well, it was too easy for me. And electricity and electrical engineering and those things sort of became, I couldn't understand it, right? I needed to know, what is this thing that knocked me on my tail while I was playing with some wires? And that pretty much what sparked the curiosity.
That sparked.
to where I am. Yeah, yes.
Is that what your degree is in, electrical engineering, or?
Yes, here I am today as a degreed electrical engineer, and my focus was in computer and electronic engineer. And back in my days, you did a lot more than, not demeaning anything today, but once I came to the US, it was amazing what was available to a student.
Resources
I
or the
embraced it.
opportunities, or both?
What I was familiar with, when the resources available to your learning experience. Before coming here and preparing to come to the US, I did a year at the University of Honduras. And, I was happy. I was young, bouncing around. I had the world at my feet. You feel young and you feel on top of it all. However, in today's pattern-driven development world, if you know that there are certain things that follow a solution and that pattern is defined, it repeats itself. It's you identifying and getting it done. Mm-hmm. The difference with coming to the US was academic institution of the professors was unlike my experience, right? Where things are expected, they have preset answers, and
very linear, very
they rule
like rules. It's like yes or no, this is the way it is.
Yes. And that was a culture shock for me. But, I didn't get discouraged. I believe in what I do, and I believe in my opportunity and myself. Eventually, when I graduated, I started my first job, met my wife, and the rest is history. Here we are this morning.
It seems like you've been on the course for excellence. The accolades and everything, I mean, I don't know if they probably kind of wash away after a point, but what's your proudest accomplishment?